So
Okay.
minus sign F means force.
Okay.
So it's not good to use those, especially if you're doing a push. But if you're doing a pull, all that'll do is it'll overwrite all your local content with what was up there. So make a copy of what you're trying to add.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I just tried it again. Can you check to see if I got the README files right?
I think so. The one I see up here is all you did was change the title, right? And you left the description alone.
Yes, and then I also added put in my portfolio link into the portfolio document.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Actually,
I was forgetting to add one because
okay.
I haven't been able to figure out the one program that you had us download. So I've been working through NetBeans.
And NetBeans can get finicky too. I'll have to help you in class. So the first video I did was the wrong program, so I put a link to the actual one. Did you get that link?
I probably did, but I probably didn't see that. Well, what did you put it under?
So I attached it to the comments of or not the comments, the description of that video post.
Well, I mean, where did you put the video post?
It was on our our personal team community. Here, I'm gonna put right here in the comments to this hangout is the link to the one you need. That's the one I was demoing in the video, just with the wrong download link.
Okay, I downloaded the file, but I will wait till after this meeting to install it.
I think we got everyone here, right? That's coming tonight.
I think so. Andrew said that he wasn't gonna be able to make it, I think.
Okay.
Actually, he was asking if he could teach in another week or so on the community.
Okay, so I think Chris, you had said in the one of the or last week that next week's meeting, you, Andrew, and Jesus are going to be teaching.
Yep.
Okay. Well, if either one of you want to go ahead, I guess. I think we have everyone here besides Andrew and Cahoon.
I can start then, since my mic's up. Let me share my screen. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, you guys seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is live. It's already on our project website, so you can come check it out under my personal code. So, oh, this one's not mine. So it's DOM traversal. This is a kind of a very simple one. To be honest, on the surface, it looks very much like the one Matthew did. So I just put buttons throughout it, so this will get the closest. What this one's doing is it's searching up the DOM tree by anything you want to specify. So right here, it's searching for any div, any table, anything that has a class called a record. And so right there, it grabs the first one. This one, it gets all the parents. So what that means is it'll climb up the DOM tree and get any elements that match this class right here. So the reason it's not called get all matches is because get all matches would have to climb down the DOM tree, and my code doesn't do that. It only climbs up right now. So there, it grabs all of these, have a class of row, and then so same, or these are records. Sorry, these have a class of record. These are all the rows in the page, so it highlights them. And then you'll notice down here on row 5, it doesn't get highlighted because it's lower in the DOM than everything else. But if you grab its parent, now it's highlighted. Now I highlighted the whole page because I searched for a div. So that's pretty self-explanatory. That's just climbing around the DOM. Now let me bring this up. Can you guys see this as well?
Not yet.
So is it a little laggy?
I can see it.
Okay. So this is just the HTML page. As you can see, I just made a quick little, some of these are rows, so these divs are just siblings of each other. And then in this div, it has a lot of children. It has a table, it has some input as children items. So that's just the HTML, but here's the code. So this is, fair warning, telling you up front. This is the link to where this code came from. A lot of it was copied, but this guy, I talked to him for a while, and all of a sudden he's gone dark. He won't return my emails, and he turned off commenting on his WordPress site for some reason. So this code was actually really broken, and I'm warning you here that it was broken, and I fixed it. So let's go through this. So if you're familiar with jQuery at all, this is a vanilla JavaScript implementation of jQuery's closest. So under the hood, this is what jQuery is trying to do, although this actually runs faster than jQuery. So let me walk you through it. So you pass in an element. You need to pass in part of the page, so your function can determine where in the DOM you're at, where in the DOM tree you're at. And then you pass in a selector. So the selector can be anything you want. And that's what's really cool about this code. And I changed it to make sure you can pass in anything you want. So the real magic happens right here. As it climbs the DOM tree, so you're in a while loop, it'll keep climbing the DOM tree until you reach the top. Once you reach the top of the document, it'll stop. And you can search by class, you can search by ID, you can even search by data attributes and tag selectors. So I didn't show you any of those, but let's say instead of right here, so how we used class record, how I searched for that, we could also search for data don't know, we'll call it, so for Chris data, and whatever you want in here. So I could start adding that to everything. This function would be able to find it. It'll be able to find based off a data attribute as well, not just a class, not just an ID. Let me go back. You can even find it. Watch, I'll change this real quick. So instead of searching for record, we'll search for all table rows. So, oh, that gets the closest one. So, hold on. Let's do this one. Okay. I'll wait in case your screens are lagging, but now that you click this, it grabbed all the table rows going up. So, I mean, it grabbed the same things. That's just an example of how universal this is. You can search for anything and it will find it going up the DOM tree. Down here is the other one. So get parents, what this will do is it's the same thing as this code almost, but it will ignore certain things. It will just keep climbing the DOM tree until it reaches the very top, and it will make an array. And so this array stores everything. So that's what's happening up here. We're creating an array, and then we're getting ready to start adding to it. And then down here we start climbing the DOM, and any time we come across an element that we're searching for, this code adds it to the array. So you push it on to the end of the array. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's, I don't know, simple DOM traversal. I guess one thing I will point out, though, is I've noticed a lot of scripts are actually missing this part. Because when you're climbing the DOM, if you just do if you jump to a previous node or to parent node, like right here where I highlighted, you're actually going to skip a lot of things. So some code that you find online, like this one that I found online, was completely broken. So if you start right here, here's my button. If you click this button, it will jump to this table row, and then it would jump to this table, and then to the div. So all it was doing was jumping to the parents. It wouldn't check on its siblings first. So this code is key. Before you jump nodes, you actually want to check for sibling elements. So previous element sibling. And so that's the key to DOM traversal, because there's also one that's next. So you can search down the DOM as well before you jump to parent nodes. Because if you don't do that, then you're actually skipping a lot of the DOM, and your code will break, or it's not working and you don't realize it. Other than that, I mean, that's really the key to it. I put all these comments in here, so it's pretty self-explanatory. So up here, for instance, this if statement, all it does is it picks apart a data attribute. So if you have data-chris equals, all this code does is it separates this part from this part, and it throws away that. So it puts it in a nice little array. So this is index 0, and that's index 1. And that way, when it's traveling up the DOM, it can see if are there any data attributes called this, and are they equal to this? Or you can even pass in just this. You can just decide to find all data attributes named Chris, or all data attributes, period. So this just comes in handy because you can do things like this, where I have this button here that fires it. You can tell it, for instance, to just climb to its parent and do something. So the most common use of this, and I'm not showing you an example of it here, unfortunately, is normally this would be a form. And what you would do is you'd put your button here, and when the person clicks it, it would jump to the form, and it would pick apart all the input and the text fields and the select fields, and it would do processing on them. So that's one way to do processing, where you'd go down the field or go down the form, pull out data, and check it and make sure it's what's supposed to be in that form before you submit it. So that's one example that you could use with this. Besides also finding things. So for instance, let me go back here. In some of our other examples, like the one I modified from Jesus, you know, you could use this DOM traversal. If this list was really big, you could put it down here on a button that would start reading through the list to do other things that you need, or to find some other value that's in the list, and then do something based off finding that or not finding it. So yeah, any questions on that, on this code? These two functions down here, by the way, are just put in there so it's easier for you to use these functions I showed you. And I have comments in all of them, so they explain it.
So in a way, like if you want to search for everything in the DOM, and you're looking for a certain element, you can then duplicate that element using this kind of code. Like basically, if you want to replicate another tile or another row, you can take that and add to it by clicking a certain button. Oh
yeah. Yeah, so what you would use for that then is probably get parents, because what it returns is it returns null if it didn't find anything, but if it did find at least one thing, if not many things, it returns an array. So then in your function, you can choose to do whatever you want with that array. You can clone it and then add those elements back to the DOM. Or one tiny example is my manager function.
Mm-hmm.
When you use get parents, for instance, when you're trying to find all the examples, what I chose to do is I took that array, I blew it apart, and I said, you know what, I want to style the background. And so that's what was happening here. So I just styled all those. But yeah, I could easily take that and say, hey, clone all these and add them back to the table, and now the table doubles in size.
I'm not going to lie, a lot of that code is very vague to me, so I have to look through it, but it makes sense. So
yeah, and I'll walk you through it if you guys ever want. You know, just let me know, and I can do a one-on-one walkthrough. But I have a ton of comments that really explain it.
Okay.
But just know, I mean, the reason these functions are so big is because they're limitless. Like, if you want to find something in the DOM, you can find it. By ID, by class, by tag type, by anything, you'll be able to find it.
Just real quick, when you included this JavaScript file inside of your index, you just have to call in the script.
Yeah, right here.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so
mm-hmm.
It's the buttons that are down in this HTML file that then reference the functions within the JS file.
Yeah, because normally you wouldn't go from like a button right here on the page right to like the function like closest. You know, these functions are normally for us in the back end to be handling stuff. So the manager function is kind of a workaround. So right here I pass in this, just copies this part of the DOM and sends it into the function. And then all I'm doing right here is I'm passing in the parameters that the actual functions need. So I'm telling it, this is what I'm searching for, and this is the function I want to use, either closest or get parents. So that's why I had to make a manager function, because this isn't, you don't normally do it this way. But the manager function just handles it for you. Let me go down to it. So, like right here, it checks, okay, you want to run the closest function, and then so it just runs it for you. It builds the function. So it calls closest, it passes in the DOM element, which was the button, and it passes in what you asked to search for.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll add some comments here to explain that more, but it's just a workaround so you can use these functions kind of in a way that you normally wouldn't. Yeah, any other questions?
I don't think so. So.
And if you guys want, I mean, I also included that link. This whole article, he didn't delete the article's still up, so you can also read that, and it does a really good job of explaining all these steps. But yeah, if you don't have any comments, I guess I'll pass the time back over.
All right, so we'll now go to Jesus.
All right, I'll share my screen, and just let me know if you can see it. Okay, can you see what I'm seeing right now?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
pretty much this time I have been just building upon the example that Chris modified from the example I showed the first time, and this time I'm just creating some code to call through Ajax. I'm calling a JSON file and populating the form from the JSON file. So let me show you how it works. So I just added this button that says go and grab the information from external file. And if you go there, it goes and populates it. And it's bringing all this data from a JSON file. I'm not putting anything on the fields anymore. I'm just loading everything from a JSON file, putting it in the local storage, and pretty much that's it. It's very simple, I guess. But here is the function that I created for Ajax. I'm just passing a variable called URL. That's the JSON file location in the server, and I'm creating the object for each XML HTTP request. And this object is actually the one that it's gonna bring gives us a lot of the data from the Ajax request. So here I'm just using this method, the onReady state change, to verify if the file that I'm looking for it's actually on the server. And I do that with the status 200. That means that that file exists there. If I did have anything else like a 403, I think, or 404, I don't remember, it means that the file it doesn't exist there, and probably it's not going to execute whatever is in here. So this XML HTTP response text will bring the content of the JSON file, and I'm gonna pass it through this function that all it's gonna do, it's gonna parse the file and bring the elements and convert them into text so I can work with them. And I'll show you how the text file looks like. So right here, this open, it's telling it to use a get method, and I'm passing the URL here. And the true, it means that it's going to be asynchronous. So for me, it was hard to understand it, but I used a alert as you can see here, to kind of understand what it was doing. And actually, it goes through four stages of the request, and this number of the ready state goes like from 1 to 4. And what I understood from it, it's just getting ready to give us the information that we need, and then it gives us the status of whether the file that we're looking for or it's in the server or not. So I'm gonna go down to these get JSON data. Pretty much I'm just creating this object and assigning it the parsing of the data that was found on the file. Then the file has an array that contains 3 or 4 objects, and I'm just looping through the objects. So right now, well, the object is called person. That's the one, and inside of that, there's this people array, and this people array will have an object that actually has this attribute: first name, last name, or age. Now, age is a number, so that's why I am using the stringify method from JSON, so I can convert it into text, and later on I can put it into the local storage, because local storage will only process or store text. And here I'm generating the key that I need to identify each row in the local storage. And here I just created a little function that actually tells me if the record or the information already exists in the local storage. So I go through the local storage, try to find out if the key already exists. If it already exists, then exist equals true, and then I stop the function from doing anything else. And so that's why I'm doing a false. If the data doesn't exist in the local storage, then I go ahead and use the function that Chris created to add the data to the list, and then update that into to be shown. And later on, I put that information into the local storage. So that's pretty much it. So I don't know if anybody has any question.
One of the questions that I have is when you say into local storage, are you meaning on the server in memory, or are you meaning on the server in something else?
Well, actually, yes. It's on the local storage on the server. It looks like, and it looks like this. When you go into the Explorer of Chrome, you can go to Resources and Local Storage, and then you can see whatever it's put in there. And I almost forget. This is how the JSON file looks like. So I have the opening and closing. I don't remember the name of this in English. Sorry, brackets, I guess. And
yeah.
then you have the array. The array, it's called people, and it has like 1, 2, 3, 4 elements, and these are objects, on JSON objects. So I'm storing an array called people with 4 objects, and then I'm just going through them and pulling every data from here using the attributes that are stored in this object. So for instance, if I was to modify any of this and then I upload it into the server, let's see, then I could see more data into it, but I can actually place more names and it will read them from the file. But since I'm looking for duplicates, I'm just going to modify one of this to say D, and then I'll save it.
I think you need to add a comma at the end.
Oh yeah, a comma right here. Thank you. And then let's see if it saves it. Yes, I'll tell it. Okay, upload this. Yes. So I'm uploading it to the server, and then I don't know, from external file. I don't think it read it, so I don't know what it went wrong right now.
Do you want to try to refresh your web page?
Right. Let's see. Okay, let me just move everything from here and try to read it. Okay, something went wrong. I don't know. I have to look into that. What wasn't reading this last file, this last object. So yeah. For some reason it didn't do it, so let me see.
Going back to your code, when you say there's like the key to avoid duplicates, that's just something you kind of made up there, like it's just a concatenation of the
Right, of the
names?
different
Okay.
fields and the data that actually we are putting into the file. So it's just concatenation. You can put whatever you want there.
Okay. And when like in your JSON object, so that's an array of 4 person objects. Is that what I'm seeing?
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's an array of 4 person objects.
And so people would be, I guess, the
array.
value there.
Right here, this is the name of the array.
I get it. Okay. Okay.
And then the content of the array. So I don't know if you have any other question.
For the local storage, it kind of maybe, I don't know if this is Brandon's question. I just repeat it again. Is it local storage on for the server or for the users? Like
it should be the users, because actually it's the local storage on your computer. I have run this code on my work computer, and obviously when I was playing around with the initial functionality that I built previously, right here, just putting 1, 2, 3 names, and then loading it from local storage brought different values than I had on the computer on my home. So I guess yes, it is the local storage on your computer.
Now, is there a certain spot that it's writing that local storage out to that you define within the program?
Yeah.
So, for example, like let's say they go to a web page that makes them use local storage. Does it then like say, okay, go to, if they're a Windows machine, go to their C drive and create a file, and that's where you store it, or is it storing it in their own memory?
Well, actually, I don't exactly know where is that stored, but I think each system has their own space for the local storage. It's just kind of like I'm just looking for the function that I created to upload local storage. Okay, right here. Right here. Store info. That's one of the functions that I created previously. And actually it uses it creates an object and then gets the first name, last name, age, and key, and goes and uses this local storage that set item and the key to be able to store the data using this function from local storage.
Yeah, so local storage goes on your hard drive, and each browser is responsible for handling it. Like Chrome, for instance, the old school used to be, so first each browser will sandbox a website. So when you do local storage, it can only ever work in that one folder that the browser gives it, and that's for security. And in the old school way, it's 5 megabytes. Like that's the max limit by default you can ever store in local storage. However, there is new like APIs and new codes that you can use that will let you get up to, in most browsers, at least 20 megabytes, and in some, they'll let you request infinite storage. Like, I found a website, and I thought I posted the link on our community page. I'll post it again if I didn't. Like, I was testing this website out, and I was able to get Chrome to approve 20 gigs of local storage space, and I crammed it full of fake test files. So it's all local to your machine, but it's also dependent on the browser, like how much space it gets and where it is actually stored on your hard drive.
That's right. Actually, I tried to run the same code using Firefox, and it didn't bring even the same data. So it seems like every browser had like their own local storage.
Yeah, so I'm pulling up this web page. This just consists of where a user, it's notified that on most machines, depending on what kind you're using, like here's Firefox, depending on which window operating system you're using, where it stores that information. So here's for Chrome. This is if you're on a Mac or if you're on Windows. So yeah.
So right, that's pretty much how local storage works on the local hard drive. And here is the function. I don't know if you have any question about this. The key here is the set item. The set item is the one that's gonna go and say, well, the item with this key, it's gonna be stored as a text. I'm pulling a JSON object and converting it into text. So, do you have any other question?
No.
I think I got my questions answered, so.
All right, so let me go back and stop sharing. Okay, let's see. All right, so I don't know if you have any other question or anything, any other comment.
No.
I don't have a comment on your code, but there's one thing I'd like to share real quick.
All right.
Let me share my screen real quick. Okay. So can you guys see my code editor again?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this is just, it gave me a major headache, and I used to know this, I totally forgot it. So when you use the GET request in Ajax, your browser will try to cache the result. So like the website that I'm using for the class, this one, it uses Ajax requests to load all these links and stuff. And so I actually broke it because I forgot that it caches the results. So it would never load the new links. And so if you ever run into that problem, the trick is to add some data after the link. So like right here, what I'm doing now on our website is I just add numbers to the end of the request, like you see right there. So if you're ever using the GET protocol, make sure to just tack something on random like this, but where the numbers change every time, and that way Chrome and Firefox and Safari, none of them will will cache you the result. So it's just a little heads up.
It's good to know.
Thanks.
So yeah, so we have those two for this week. I have something I can present that I'm working on. In this meeting, I guess we talked about the project though from last week that we wanted to go over, and I know Christopher, you had put a Google Doc on our thing with project proposals. So this one right here. I don't know if we were planning on going over these. Are we going to start working on one of these two, or kind of what was the plan?
So we were supposed to all work on both of those. So what this document's going to turn into is our official proposal. We're just going to turn it in and tell them, hey, these are the two projects we want to do. And under each section should be all the features and anything else you want to include, like a sketch or diagrams. So this way it was fair. So not just Evan and not just Andrew was doing it all themselves.
Okay. So basically in here, something like this, how I've just included this, we need to explain how Evan's project is going to use JSON, JavaScript objects, and all of that.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to also include like the features you expect to see or would like to see in this. So like Evan's, he wants a card feature where you can flip the cards and study terms and definitions.
Okay.
So we could say, I don't know, I want to have in the application a functionality that actually lets me load, as many cards as I want or something like that. Just as an example.
Yeah, it could be that. You would just have to like type it up as a proposal and like briefly describe and explain like how that feature would work.
Okay.
Okay.
Nope, that makes sense. And then I'm just trying to remember, was Andrew's the scene face app?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I guess, are there any questions that anyone has about the course or anything that you've kind of been wondering or like you're super confused on that we could go over that anyone is kind of wondering about? Like today, I had to talk to Chris to understand GitHub a little bit. So if you like have any questions there, I'd be willing to help with any of that. Or if it just anyone has questions in general.
I guess I'll just check Chris's code on the dumb topic that he did today to see if I can understand it. If not, I'll post some questions.
Okay. So it sounds like we just need to make teaching presentations for this upcoming week. So does anyone, let's see, where's our teaching presentation?
What did Andrew have that he was going to?
I think he was going to do something on CSS, but I don't remember if it was transitions, animations, or what topic was it.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
he was kind of going to do transition and animations, and he was talking about how to incorporate that with JavaScript because that's what in the code topic document on iLearn that's what it's talking about is it includes having to use the JavaScript to like initiate changes and stuff. So that's what he was going to look into when I talked with him yesterday.
Okay. So this next week I can teach on JavaScript objects. That's one of the things that I've been working on. Let's see.
I guess I need to teach next week. What do we need that we haven't? I guess we've already covered everything once, but
Yeah, so it just sounds like we'll just keep going over things, just go more in depth. So if you just want to choose a topic. I'm going to do local storage as well.
I guess I can talk about JSON.
And I guess that, I mean, well, I was gonna say I could do the Ajax, but because he's doing the CSS.
Okay.
Because the animations, transitions, transformations are all like you can fit that all into one just because they work all pretty similarly and integrated.
Yeah. This one is.
And then this way I can also learn something else other than CSS.
Okay. And what time do we want to meet next week? Does anyone have a preference that they would like?
Well, I don't know my work schedules until Friday evening, so I can't say when I will have work because I mean I didn't have work today because my manager likes to change things around sometimes. But typically, I mean, I am available usually at 8 on weekdays. It's just it was just on Tuesday. My manager changed it to where I work till 9. So I don't know if she's going to keep that or if today was a temporary thing or whatnot. But usually I'm available about 8 or a little after 8.
So would you guys want to plan on 8:30 and we could try to work both in case you have to come a little late?
Yeah, I think that would be good for me.
Are we still on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. 8:30, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I just put that on this page here. If you want, I can actually go over because I was working a lot today on just getting GitHub going. Let's see if I can pull this up. So on here, I basically was just going over JavaScript objects. Obviously, not as advanced as some of the things we've seen, but so I've kind of now got a better understanding of JavaScript and how it works because basically you're taking the HTML tags and everything, so divs and stuff, which I'm still kind of understanding, and you can do stuff with it. I can see how this is useful in an application, like if you have a button and you want to have it, like let's say we did we do the flashcards app, we could obviously change the div to the correct answers, so we could have it labeled as correct, and then we could, whenever a person clicks on the answer, it would pop out like kind of this one did with date, or for example, this one just basically changes what is set up here. This one right here is just an image that I was working with that you can go back and forth. And then this is the actual object that I was working with. So my code for it here basically this first one, as you can see here, each of the headers, it's just a button that you click, and once you whenever you click it, it just basically changes that element, which is the demo element, and it changes it to equal date, which it did up here before we did this one. Now, as you can see, this ID is demo and this one is demo as well. So when I clicked here, it actually changed this up here when it should have changed this one. And that's because it, from what I've understood, it actually will go up to the first, it will go through the document from the top, and it'll find the first one. So I'm guessing, Christopher, this is where it'd be useful to go up the DOM or to use that function to grab everything and change all of them, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
I was just saying, just really quickly, you're only supposed to use the one ID. Like, you're not supposed to have two IDs of demo on the same page. That's why it's going up to the top one. And I mean, you can use your. I'll let Chris talk about using on with that, but that was just letting you know that's an HTML rule that you're supposed that is supposed to follow, and that JavaScript follows as well.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good catch. So IDs can only be used once, should only be used once. So if you use an ID twice, in the DOM's mind, it just depends on the situation. So actually, the second one should be getting everything because it can be overwritten. But you're right, like the way you're using the code, it's climbing down the DOM tree from the document root. So one, the code, it just wouldn't work. You would need to change the IDs. But yeah, like if those were two classes named the same thing, you could use my functions to either find all of them, or if you knew, like you know where you're at right now, you want to climb up, you would just use closest. But later on, we can write a function that says only go to the next one, and so it'll climb down one in the DOM and find the next one.
Or we can go up one.
Yeah, or it can go up one. jQuery has all those functions, and so I was just trying to recreate jQuery, but in vanilla JavaScript. So jQuery can go all over the place. It can find every match. It can find every other one. It can find whatever you want. So I want to expand those functions to eventually do all that as well.
All right. Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I can't, all these little rules I can't remember, so okay, that's good to know. IDs can only be one.
Yeah, IDs are one, and then you use class. Class you can use class just once, but that's typically you use class if it's going to be used more than once.
Okay, that's good to know. So this next one just basically is the image, and it just basically goes through, and what it does is there's a function called change image, and what it does is that you have here an if and else statement, and basically it says if the image source matches, and it just goes through and it searches for this inside of the file name. And so if the file name has this in it, then that condition is true, and so it will then switch to image 1. Else it will just stay at image 2. So that's kind of what gives you that back and forth functionality. So it kind of just goes through and finds out which one it is. And then this is just basically an object. So I kind of was just learning JavaScript here. Obviously, I have a lot to do with the object still. But basically, just create an object here. It's a person. And these are all the things you can do with it. And then you call that person. You pull out their first name, concatenate string, their age, and concatenate. And then you kind of just go from there. And so then this inner HTML is what gives you the output onto your web page. So we get this element from the HTML, and then we make that equal to this object plus all this concatenation. So I'm still learning that, but that's kind of what I've learned with JavaScript so far. So kind of took everything back to the basics. So Any questions? All right. Well, it sounds like we have all of that ready for next Tuesday then. Is there anything else that anyone wants to go over?
I just wanted to add, I was just doing some tests on my code for, it didn't work with the JSON. I guess I just needed to close the file locally, and then it reflected on the file remotely. So I'll upload the example though on the GitHub, and then you can play around with it.
Okay.
If you like.
Awesome. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I will post this meeting on our meeting page on our community, and if you guys want to view it or find certain things in it, you're welcome to. So I guess we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.